So if you're dumb, surround yourself with smart people who can run the business while you step away. If you're smart, surround yourself with smart people who disagree with you. You have to risk in order to get the reward. You have to invest in your business. You have to be willing to make a mistake in order to be a success. So if you are listening to this podcast and you're like, Bear had a really good point on all this stuff, or if you're listening to some of the archives and you're like, man, Jonathan knew what he was talking about. If you believe in us and believe in these people, and if you've seen successful stories and you're hearing the lessons that we're teaching, but you're not actually applying them, then, with all respect, Ryan, turn us off. You're not doing anything with it anyway. Take whatever we're saying, and if there's any semblance of, I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but if you connect with it, it resonates with you, and you're like, man, I can do that, then go and do it. Don't let fear stop you from becoming a success.
Hey guys, welcome to Lawn Care Millionaire, where we interview experts to bring you content that's going to make you a lawn care millionaire. I'm your host, Ryan, but more importantly, I've got a guest with me, Bear Duplisea, former Service Autopilot colleague and senior account executive at Applause HQ. Now, today we're going to be talking a little bit about some hiring trends, as well as some of the things that we're seeing in the lawn care industry. So, Bear, welcome to Lawn Care Millionaire. How you doing?
Doing well, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's jump straight into it. So, Lawn Care Millionaire, we talk about lawn care here pretty specifically. What's working right now as far as what you guys are seeing be effective in attracting reliable crew members?
Offering additional incentives is always the key. So that seems like a really, blanket statement of, just pay them more money. It's not really about that. It's how you engage in those incentives too. Because you might not be able to offer them more money, on an hourly basis. So it's not that simple, but it's not terribly complex either, right? So additional incentive programs, to just letting them know that they have additional extras and everything like that. My current company with Applause, that's something that we do. Is we assist with additional incentives, and we streamline that and give your employees instant rewards for doing the job. Doing a job well done, the job well done that they're already doing, and we deliver instant incentives to them. Some of which you're not responsible for paying for. So, I mean, that's super attractive for a business owner. Others, you are responsible, but the juice is worth the squeeze, as they say in a lot of cases. So,
absolutely. So, many lawn care businesses are struggling with seasonal hiring. It's just sort of a thing that comes with the business, right?
Yeah.
What strategies have you seen work well for managing the summer rush? Because that's kind of the next hurdle that we're going to be approaching.
Yeah, I think you're right now. You're starting to see a shift in with businesses that are less than 10 years old. They haven't been doing it for as long as companies that have been around for 15, 20, 25 years plus, where they're doing a lot of the hirings and firings and stuff like that on seasonal work. For companies who are doing it less than 10 years, they're probably experiencing what they would consider typical turnover. They're probably having to replace, not just their entire workforce, but an additional 30 or 40% of the people who don't come back. So essentially, you're hiring 140% every single year, right? And so that's problematic. So a lot of these companies, particularly north of the Mason-Dixon line, they're going to finding year-round services, finding additional work that they can offer to keep these guys plugged in. And honestly, that's not a bad thing to do, right? If you're lean enough to where you make you make a living and do a really good job during your spring and summer season for you personally, man, everything you can manage to do in the to link the two seasons is all going to be extra gravy. And then you don't have to have the added headache of hiring your workforce again, which is nice. At least your best people.
Yeah, if you can retain them, then that's a significant part of the battle is making sure you keep those top performers.
I mean, unfortunately, to your question though, Ryan, I think it was problematic is it's too late to do that now. Like we're sitting here on we're sitting here on December 13th, and if you're trying to say like I need to create some work over the next few weeks, time you're probably up a creek. But but you got to start thinking about that for next year, right? This time next year, like what can I implement to my business to where I can start selling business? Now it might be this year, it might be just going out there and finding additional work and then bringing back some of your top people to help you out. You might have to do that. But that's a good place to start. You got to start, journey of 1,000 steps, man. Starts with the first one. You got to do it.
Absolutely. Next question here I've got for you is around career paths. So how are successful lawn care companies creating advancement opportunities to keep those good employees interested long term?
I think it's investment in them too, right? So not just charting a career path too, and getting, it's not just hiring them for a job. If you hire someone to do a job, that's all they're ever going to do. It's just a job. That's all they're ever going to do. Just a job. Now, if you hire somebody for a career, that means investing in them, finding out more about them as a person and genuinely investing in them. We're not just talking about promoting them to a team lead, giving them extra responsibilities and a little bit more money per week. That's not it. What do they aspire to be? Do they want to own their own business? And then, but this is where we start treading on some funny ground, right? Because some business owners feel a certain way about that. Right. I got to tell you right now, if I was starting a business today, I would want to hire people who want to start businesses.
That is,
I would do that.
Probably a controversial take.
There's my hot take, right?
Let's hear it.
Well, Bear, like, oh, they're going to just steal half your business out the door. Like, not if you treat them right.
100% agree.
Because let's talk about some statistics, Ryan. Okay, so unfortunately, a vast majority of businesses fail.
Mm-hmm.
A vast majority of businesses fail. So it stands to reason that if someone from your workforce goes off and starts a business, they're probably not going to make it, statistically speaking, which means they probably need a place to come back to. So you probably want to have good terms there. But the second thing is reason, if they do thrive, you have a competitor in the marketplace that and you've encouraged them along the way, you've helped them achieve that dream, then you have a competitor in the marketplace that, guess what? It's not going to undercut you. They're not going to mess you over because you've invested in them. And believe me when I say this, I mean, there's enough work to go around. There just does. I mean, that's what I hear more often than not too, is like, oh, I don't have any problem. I don't have any problem in sales, Bear. I have enough work. I have more than enough work. I have too much work. Oh, good for you. And then you're worried about taking care of Ryan and training him up and lifting him up work and him going and starting off his own business. Man, shoot, I might even give you customers, Ryan, to help you start, man. Like that's my mentality. Yeah, it's a hot take, but yeah, invest in your employees. And
I love that.
Even if they want to start a new business one day.
Beautifully put. So we're seeing more lawn care businesses offer performance-based incentives. So things like pay for performance, whether it's that or it's additional stuff on the top, bonuses, what have you. What are some of the creative ways that you guys have seen companies structure those programs?
Pay for performance is incredibly popular right now, just because a lot of really high. Well, I mean, first of all, it's a model that works. But a lot of influencers in the space are really big on it right now too, and that's why you're kind of seeing it. But the reason why pay for performance works from a business perspective, from an ownership perspective, is obviously you only have to pay for work that's actually done, and you know that it's going to get done well because that's how they're incentivized, right? Now, the downside of this is actually conveying this message. If you're making this change in your business, or if you're trying to hire someone, and if you're hiring pay for performance and you against someone who's hiring hourly, right? You have to prove to that person that the business model works. So you better have some metrics to back it up. So you need good reporting. You need good record keeping. And you need to have really good employees. So you need to invest in people. So you need something else especially with going to paper for performance, you need something extra to really kind of sweeten the pot for these employees, or they're going to bolt, especially if it doesn't work, right? So
Yeah,
got to
I
make
think
sure
it's a
it
really
works.
good point. Yeah, would you say a good way to try to implement that? I've had some other conversations with some coaches and stuff in the industry, and sort of my takeaway from those has been, if you're going to implement something like pay for performance, maybe do a small sample size. This will help you get some buy-in with your team. Do a small sample size.
Mm-hmm.
Have them run pay for performance. Be willing to pay them their hourly rate if they don't make as much money, right? So there's no skin off their back. They're just, they're not risking anything by trying to do this, and you're onboarding them into the program.
Right.
And then at the end of that trial period, maybe it's a week or two or a month or whatever it is, show them how much that money difference is. And then under the assumption that they make way more in P4P, they're going to be all about it. They're going to talk it up to the guys, and then you can roll it out.
Yeah, again, it's all back to a couple times that we've kind of said this too. Is just like, is investing in your people, right? And so, listen, you need to bring people in. You need to bring people into your circle that are in your business. Take your top performers, right? The people that show up to work every day, right? The people that show up to work every day, because that's going to be a great barometer of success on P2P, right? You also want to take the people that have been with you the longest, but not necessarily, right? But again, the people that you can have an honest, genuine conversation with and say, listen, I want you to do this. We're going to try this out. It's people you got to trust, because they got to keep it close to, because like people will start bolting if they hear about stuff, right? Like down the line. So I would keep it really close to the vest. Like, hey guys, I want to run this test, and even market it as a test. Like, I don't know if this is going to work. So I'm willing to, like you say, like I'm willing to pay you your hourly rate. If I'm wrong, I think this can work, because I've looked at some numbers and I've talked to some people, and I think this can really work with us. But I want to make sure it's right for you guys. Yeah,
I think that's an excellent way to frame it.
Yeah, any employee worth their salt is going to say, you're gonna fix it if it screws up. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, and there's a chance on the other side I make more money. Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and make more money. So what you're saying is, worst case scenario, I get paid what I'm getting paid now, right? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Like, who's not going to say yes to that? Worst case scenario, nothing changes. Cool.
Absolutely. All right. So next question here is on training. Obviously, pretty huge thing in lawn care. How are companies effectively onboarding new hires while they're keeping their operations running smoothly?
I think that's having the right people in place. I think that's just making sure that you're having the right people and you're compensating. So if you're in a pay for performance kind of model, and you were like, well, I want my most experienced people training like these new people, well, that's going to affect your most experienced people's pay, right? So you need to compensate them on the back end. You just need to make sure you take care of them. Hey, Ryan, you just spent all this time talking me into it. It's great. I've been cooking with gas over here, making a pretty good living because I'm pretty awesome at this. And then now you want to slow me down by now I have to onboard, Timmy over here. Like, come on. Like,
yeah, I think that's a really good point. That's
a
really good point.
Like, hey, no problem. No problem, man. Well, look, what you've been making the last few weeks, like if you don't make that amount or better, we'll match it.
Love that.
Again, it's the same concept, right? With what we were talking earlier. Like, hey, we're going to try something out, because you want your best people training your best people, because that's how you want that's how you want people to work. So,
absolutely.
But you got to pay them for it. You got to take care of them. You got to offer something. And if you're like, Bear, I can't afford to, you got to figure something out. Maybe you shouldn't be hiring somebody, but you're like, oh, I need to hire someone. I'm like, okay, well then you got to figure it out. You got to compensate them somehow. Because people, people are genuinely good. Like, even your best employer will, like, yeah, out of the goodness of their heart, you might find that person who's like, out of the goodness of their own heart, they'll do that, but you still got to do the right thing.
Absolutely. So next question here, Bear. What role is technology playing in both finding and managing your lawn care employees? What are you guys seeing from the Plus side?
I think you absolutely have to invest in technology to find good employees. Like, you just, like, whether that's, post-hiring stage, like with a CRM like Field Edge, Service Autopilot, or additional add-ons like applause, you know. But like even on the front side too, you know, there's some really great companies out there. I mean, shout out to Wheat Recruit. I know that they're a partner of Service Autopilot. They're fantastic.
Absolutely.
You know,
Love
Libby's
those
amazing.
guys.
You know, you got to find a service like that will build your bench. You should always have a bench, and you should like always invest in looking for people. That should always be priority of your business, because you never know when you have to pull someone in. You never know when you're going to have to hire. So, yeah, you should. I mean, technology on the front end is only going to make it easier. Technology on the back end is only going to make it easier too. You know, you got to keep good employees. So keep
perfect. All right, there. Last question I got for you. So let's take a look at the owner who's ready to step back from day-to-day operations. Are there any hiring strategies that you recommend for building that management layer to be able to handle that so you can step back?
Yeah. Again, I would, you know, I go back to this quote that is kind of like a gem again. I got it from an old TV show and stuff. But it's, you know, if you're dumb, surround yourself with smart people. So if you're dumb, surround yourself with smart people who can run the business while you step away. If you're smart, surround yourself with smart people who disagree with you. And that doesn't mean that you're turning the reins over to someone who's going to do it completely different than you. That's not it at all. It's the person who's smart enough to come to you and say, listen, this is the way you train me. I think it can be better. I can think we can improve it by doing it this different way, and letting them run with it and having the trust in them to do it because they're smart and they disagree with you. Right. So I think it's one or the other. Right. Like, and it's people who buy into your culture. It's people who buy into the way of you doing things, but are smart enough to figure out, hey, and open enough to there could be a better way of doing things.
Absolutely.
And then giving them the autonomy to do it. And listen, if they screw up, just take it back. It's not that big of a deal, right? Right? But
you got to give them that room, right?
Yeah, you've got to give them that room, or else you're going to be on the truck forever, right? In order to step back from these different roles and everything like that, you have to find the right people. And like, that's easier said than done. I totally understand that. But you have to give people room to make a mistake, and you have to give them the license to do it. Because if they're sitting there in fear of making a mistake, they're never going to want to risk it, and they're just going to do things the same.
Yeah. And if you don't give them that space, well, then you're not stepping away, because it kind of goes hand in hand. To give them the space, you have to step away. Yeah. So,
yeah.
All right, Bear. Hey, man, thank you so much for jumping on here. I very much appreciate you coming on to the Lawn Care Millionaire channel. Thanks
so much, Ryan. It was a pleasure, man. I really appreciate it. And just shout out to you guys for continue to do a great job. When I was over at Service Autopilot, I was a huge part of some of these initiatives and stuff like that. And it's great to see them continuing. I love the evolution of it. And I love the evolution of seeing a lot of people that I saw when they were just starting out in business and what they've become. $1 million business owners, multi-million-dollar business owners. It's proof in the pudding of seeing like what technology can do. Surrounding yourself with good people, finding mastermind groups. Like, these are all things that we talk about, on a weekly basis on this podcast, right? But like, it's also going and doing it. Being open to it. One of the most, I'll end with this, Ryan. One of the most frustrating things about when I used to work at Service Autopilot was the old Lawn Care Millionaire videos with Jonathan Potoshnik, right? I talked to so many loyal listeners and viewers of that. So many they're like, this is why I'm here. I'm signing up because Jonathan Potoshnik said I should do it. And then they wouldn't do it. I'm not saying that you have to buy my software, and I'm not saying you have to buy Service Autopilot, and I'm not saying you have to buy Field Edge. What I am saying is you have to risk in order to get the reward. You have to invest in your business. You have to be willing to make a mistake in order to be a success. You have to do it. So if you are listening to this podcast and you're like, Bear had a really good point on all this stuff. Or if you're listening to some of the archives and you're like, man, Jonathan knew what he was talking about. If you believe in us and believe in these people, and if you've seen successful stories and you're hearing the lessons that we're teaching, but you're not actually applying them, then, with all respect, Ryan, turn us off. You're not doing anything with it anyway. So take whatever we're saying, and if there's any semblance of, I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but if you connect with it, it resonates with you, and you're like, man, I can do that, then go and do it. Don't let fear stop you from becoming a success.
Love that. Absolutely agree with you 100%. Bear, again, thank you so much for jumping on Lawn Care Millionaire.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you.
Anytime.